Welcome, my fabulous friends, to the January bonus of my brand new podcast, Real Estate Elevated. I am Cheryl Knowlton, CSP, and podcast host of Real Estate Elevated, here with my fabulous friend, Clay Johnson, regional manager of Guaranteed Rate Affinity. No one better to help me relaunch this show, Clay, than you. I can't believe we're back together again.
It's amazing. It's so good to be back together. Even just getting on and prep, I was like, all right, this is awesome. This is fun. Yeah, super excited.
Absolutely. I'm super excited. And today, friends, we are going to be kicking off this New Year's episode, this special bonus episode of the brand new show, by talking about habits. But first, let's take a little walk down memory lane, Clay. You and I have been dear friends for more than a decade, and you have sponsored decades of classes of mine, and we had a little show, CNC TV, together on YouTube. But yeah, we'll have to have our
The good old
friends,
days.
the good old days. And today we're kicking this whole thing off with an essential conversation. But tell everybody a little bit about you.
Well, cred, I got into the business. This is crazy because I was doing sales, family film marketing, right? We were selling family films, and I thought I was set. I was like the sales manager for this company. I was a young guy up and coming, and talking to my brother, I started noticing he's accumulating some pretty nice things. I knew he'd become a loan officer, and I thought, oh, poor guy, he's just a loan officer. He's probably going into debt up to his eyeballs or something. And then we started talking, and I said, hey, tell me, no pie in the sky, no BS. How are you doing? And he's like, gosh, better than I've ever done by a long shot. And I was like, really? I'm like, so you're just doing loans or home mortgages or something? And he said, yeah. And I said, do you like it? He goes, you know what I love about it, Clay? And I said, what? He goes, I don't feel like I'm ever selling. And this was a hook for me. He's like, I feel like I'm either helping people fulfill a lifelong dream, a bit home ownership,
Mm.
or I'm saving them money by refinancing, consolidating debt, helping them remodel their home. He said, so to me, I never feel like I'm selling. I just feel like I'm a consultant. And I was like, that sounds pretty cool. And I was like, well, do you think I'd be good at that? He's like, I think you'd be great at it, but I know you have a really good job. So anyway, long story short, I went to quit my job. They didn't let me. They gave me another increase in compensation, promises of additional bonuses and different things. And then I actually just couldn't get it out of my head. Just couldn't get it out of my head. So I went back about a month and a half later, and I just said, hey guys, I'm for real this time. I need to make this change. And it was a scary time because we were expecting our firstborn son. I was going to be having to do Cobra. We didn't have benefits, but there was just something pulling me to it. And so I got into it, and it was when rates were at about 8%, on an A paper, perfect mortgage, 20% down. So anyway, I got into it and never looked back. And I really love the business. And part of that is for the very reasons that my brother talked about. He said, I never feel like I'm selling. And that's true. And I love that. And Cheryl, you've been doing the real estate side of it. And when you help somebody get into a home and do something they've been dreaming about, first time home buyers are a blast. But I don't care who you are, whenever you get into a new home, that's an exciting time. And to be a part of that and really handle those, I don't know, it's just really fun to do. So yeah, it's been hard. It's hard to believe it's, 20, almost 27 years, 27 years now that I've been doing this, but
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
been
So
a
what year was
wild and
that?
fun ride.
Got a ride. What year was that?
98. That was in 1998. Yeah.
98, and I started in 1999. And so, yeah, what a crazy deal. And then our paths crossed originally years and years ago, and then that continued when you were at Castle and Cook Mortgage, and then you were pivotal in helping me to put together my very first national sponsorship. And you had a quote for every occasion. You have the most amazing memory of anybody I know, and I know you're going to share some of those amazing quotes on habits with our friends today.
Oh,
Um,
I lost you, Cheryl.
uh-oh, I'm right here. I'm right here. Yay. Podcast
Now
for
I got you. I got you back. Yeah, just a little bit of a glitch there, but no, we're good now. Yeah.
hey, podcast turnkey friends will have to edit out that little bit. But yay. So Clay is as brilliant as he is humble. Devoted husband, proud father, avid mountain biker, and just all around incredible human being. I would feel remiss if I did not mention that Guaranteed Rate Affinity is the new sponsor for this new show, and I'm so grateful. Tell us a little bit about Guaranteed Rate Affinity, since they're going to get to know you better every single month.
Well, it's interesting. I was at my former company a long time,
Hmm.
and wasn't looking to make a change. And then I started looking more into guaranteed rate affinity. And there was a couple of things that I really loved. One of our philosophies is the perfect combination of technology, which is becoming more and more relevant in today's business, but technology and human touch. Because I do believe this is such a significant and important thing that we're helping people with, that they still need that really important element of human touch, but also how do we utilize technological advances, I should say, to really make it the very best and simplest experience that we can. And we're using AI now at a level that I don't think anybody else is even coming close to right now. But it really helps streamline the process, simplifies it, makes it a lot less brain damage than it has been in the past. And really just that core value of we just work with the best of the best. We focus on making it the very best customer experience. And I've loved, like I said, it's been 5.5 years now, and it's been an amazing experience.
Almost 6 in February, because yeah,
It's exactly right. Yes.
we won't make our friends today hear that story, but we'll save that. Uh,
That'll be a good one to tell in the future. Yes.
for how that happened, because in addition to the fact that national sponsorship that you helped put together in 2018, that was so pivotal for me in my national speaking journey. But you're a huge part of the reason that I'm here at Coldwell Banker in Park City, Utah today. And we'll save that story for our friends for another time. But just yeah, you've just been it's going to make me emotional. You've been such a huge part of my personal and professional journey, Clay. I'm so grateful for you. And you're the perfect person to help kick off 2026 and our maiden voyage of our new show. So yay,
Yes. Yeah.
let's do it. Before we do that, though, I had written myself a note. Occasionally, since we're recording the video of this, friends, you'll see me looking down for a second. I am all here. It's because Clay just said something really amazing, and I wrote something down, which you'll probably do that too, unless you're driving or on a Peloton, in which case, safety first, kids. But guaranteed rate affinity, when you went over to them, they're no small player nationally.
Right.
They are a nationwide lender and top five.
So if you take the whole guaranteed rate family, we're the number 2 retail lender in the nation. We're the affinity division, and so if you take just our division, we are number 13 in the nation. And so it's been a great company to work for because we do such a comprehensive service across the mortgage finance and real estate finance division that it really we can encompass so many unique and unusual situations that a lot of people just kind of preclude themselves from it, thinking I could never do that. And so we do some really great and creative, good stuff to help people realize that homeownership dream.
Beautiful. Love it. And of course, we'd be remiss without talking about your amazing partner in crime in lending, John Harrison, who's also been with you for many years.
So true. We've been together. If it's funny because we were all crammed when we first started in the business. We started within 2 months of each other, and we were in this office much smaller than this one, and there was like 6 of us, kind of like rotating at these, sharing these desks. It was the craziest thing. But then very shortly after working side by side, we partnered up. There was 4 of us initially, and then it went to 3, and then it went to the 2 of us, and we've been working together really side by side, like I say, for at least 27 of those 28 years, and worked together for that whole 28 years.
Wow. And now you're opening crumble franchises all over the country and taking the world by storm. And in the
Yep.
meantime, helping me to be able to realize my own dream of home ownership, which will be a journey, friends, that you'll get to go on with me as I'm looking to sell my home of 24 years. Have a lot more empathy for our buyers and sellers on this journey. And of course, Clay and John are helping me with my mortgage. So yay.
Which is awesome. We're stoked. Yes.
I am stoked too. And talk about the empathy side of things. Yeah, we'll get to that as we go on this journey. We'll get to that. I'll have a lot more news for our February special episode. But back to habits. Today, Clay, we are going to talk about how to build them, how to break the ones that hold us back, and how to build a real estate career and a life that is grounded in daily excellence, which I know you can speak to from a position of strength and leadership for sure. So, thank you for sharing a little bit about the backstory and your journey into mortgage. Let's talk a little bit about real estate education. You've been passionate about helping professionals to become um, efficient, effective, and educated. And where did that passion for real estate education come from?
Well, I think a lot of it is you see in the industry when we first got in the industry, Cheryl, there was kind of the wild, wild west. There really wasn't any licensing, there wasn't any, testing or anything. It was just kind of crazy. You print a card and you're a loan officer. And of course, that's evolved significantly since then.
Yep.
Back then, I saw just a lot of people that were just not doing a great service for people. And so it
Mhm.
was really how do we take the best practices and this is for most people, unless they're a business owner, like we talked about, this is the largest investment they've ever made. There's a lot of emotion that goes with that. And so for me, it was really important to make that as stress-free and comfortable and holding people's hands along the way and also helping our fellow professionals because even if we're not the ones doing the transaction, let's give our industry a bright spot and make it a shining experience so that when they do it, they go, that wasn't near as bad as I thought, and it was awesome. And now we're homeowners. And so for me, it was really helping to implement best practices, kind of across the board in the industry. And I wanted to help the industry that way. And so whenever I have an opportunity to share my many years of experience and what I've learned works really well for us and what most people appreciate, I love being able to do that.
I love that you said all of that because I started in 1999 in California, which is where I'm from. But that my journey has been backwards from the very, very beginning. And I started on the mortgage side, but I had to have a real estate license in order to become a mortgage loan originator, which I thought at that time was the stupidest thing I had ever heard. And I was so frustrated. I thought, oh my gosh, this is I don't have time for this. My first real estate school, pre-licensing school, came in a cardboard box of videotapes. Remember those?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You go to the Smithsonian and see those now, and the younger generation's like videotapes. I think my
VHS. What's that? Yeah.
VHS. I think my parents have some of those in their basement. Yeah, Little Mermaid. It'll be valuable someday, they said. There was no required seat time, Clay. None. Which is
Wow.
why you probably can imagine the failure rate for first time test takers for the California real estate pre-licensing exam was like 78%.
Yeah.
I can't help but think that was because it was a combination of the fact that for some people in California, English is not their first language. And the test, a lot of times, is testing how well you take tests for
Yes. That's very true. Even today, there's still some truth to that. Yes, for
having
sure.
written the real estate exam.
Yes.
Yeah, I can attest to that a little bit. But I also think that there was no required seat time was strongly correlated to the fact that the failure rate was so high. And I made a decision, talk about excellence and habits, very early on that first of all, I was going to play by the rules. I wanted to make sure that I was not relocated to a federally or state gated community. Very important to me
Yes.
from very early on. Important decision for us to be able to make as we're talking about habits. But I decided that was not going to be me, that I was going to do whatever it took to make sure that I passed the first time. And I did. Yeah, spoiler alert, I did. And that's not to say for our friends who are listening who it took them more than once or twice or 10 times. One of the best agents I've ever known in this industry, it took him 19 times to pass
Wow.
his state
Yeah.
exam.
Yeah.
It was
But
not
it's
Utah.
true.
Yeah, and then you start getting in your own head, and that's a whole nother conversation. But that was an important decision for me to decide early on that I was going to do it right and that I was going to make sure that I passed the first time. And then I
Mhm.
moved to Utah. My company that I was working for, even from those very early days, was in Utah. And when I moved back, exactly what you talked about, Clay. There was no pre-licensing requirements. There was no pre-licensing exam. There was nothing. You would
Yeah.
drive down to the Utah Division of Real Estate building in Salt Lake City. You'd fill out a one side of one page application, sign it at the bottom,
Yep.
write them a check
Yes.
with your videotapes, right? For $168, and you'd pass that over to them and they would pass you back a license, and then you'd print your business cards and off you go on your way. And there was so much ridiculousness, very low bar of of what was happening in the mortgage side, and then I also noticed on the real estate side, which was very, very pivotal to my entire education journey, which has brought us together. So yay, here we are. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk about habits. The new year's here. Everybody's talking about goals and vision boards and resolutions. And from the one of the very first times you ever sponsored a class for me, you shared a quote from memory, by the way, about habits that I absolutely love. So since recording this on, you can do the whole thing of all of it. So take it away. I'll let you do your magic.
Well, it's interesting because every now and then you hear a quote or you see a painting or there's something that really stands out to you and you say, I've got to have that painting. I need to have that quote on my wall. I need to have that memorized, and it becomes a core part of who you are. But this one
Mm.
really resonated with me. And of course, we've kind of given up the ending of it a little bit, but it starts off and it says, I am your constant companion. I am your greatest helper or your heaviest burden. I will push you onward or drag you down to failure. I am completely at your command. Half the things you do, you might just as well turn them over to me, and I will be able to do them quickly and correctly. I am easily managed. You must merely be firm with me. Show me exactly how you want something done, and after a few lessons, I will do it automatically. I am the servant of all great men and the loss of all failures as well. Those who are great, I have made great. Those who are failures, I have made failures. I am not a machine, though I function with all the precision of a machine, plus the intelligence of a man. You may run me for profit or run me for ruin. It makes no difference to me. Take me, train me, be firm with me, and I will place the world at your feet. Be easy with me, and I will destroy you. Who am I? I am habit.
Yes, not AI. I heard what you were thinking out there, friends. It's not AI, it's habit.
Look at habit. I've heard my spouse. My gut feeling, the Holy Ghost. You get these different things.
Money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
buddy. Intellect. So, and it's
Mm-hmm.
really interesting when you think about it. There's so many things that we do automatically every day that are just part of our habits, and habits can be hard to develop, but they can be even harder to break. And that can be for the good or it can be for bad, like we talked about, like it says in that quote. So if you think about it, one of the key things I tell people, I'm like, lace your fingers, right? And notice which thumb is over which thumb. Okay, now take it apart. And I'm like, let's do spirit fingers, bring it back together. Notice which thumb is over which thumb, same one. Now switch. How does that feel? Awkward.
Weird.
Yeah, it's like, I hate that.
Uncomfortable.
Same thing, folding arms is funny because you have people try to switch that and they're like, uh, so it's like, switch, just folding arms. It's like these simple little things. Most people put the same sock on every day. They don't realize it. They put the same pant leg on. They put the same sleeve on and they do it first. And it just
The same
happens.
shoe. You were the
Same
one who taught me,
shoe.
and I was like, I'm doing that. I'm you.
Yes. It's all subconscious. We're just doing it and it's happening. So the key is how do we get those habits to be good ones? The autopilot habits. How do we train our autopilot habits to be good ones? And there's some really good things we can do physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, business. I mean, obviously, those habits become paramount to our success. And every first of the year, here we are coming up, with the first of the year, and it's like, all right, what are my new habits going to be this year that are going to make me be more successful? And how do I make positive ones make those very consistent? So.
Mm. I love that. And so let's talk a little bit about why habits. Why do habits matter more than willpower or vision boards? And not that those things are bad in any way, but for high performers, why do habits matter more than motivation or willpower?
Because it becomes autopilot. It becomes just where your positive habits are automatic. They just happen. They're programmed. You develop it. One of my other favorite quotes is actually from Stephen R. Covey, and I love this because it is so true. And this is really important. But he said, "Successful people have the habits of doing things failures don't like to do."
Ooh, say that again for everybody
Successful
driving on the telephone.
people have the habit of doing things failures don't like to do. Now, here's the key part. They don't like doing them either necessarily,
Mm.
but their disliking is subordinated to the strength of their purpose. It's like what's your purpose? We talk a lot about what's your why, what's your purpose, right? So
Mhm.
nobody was like, oh, I can't wait to do some cold calls or door knocking or whatever it is, today. But it's like, all right, how do we do calls in general? Some people just have a phobia of picking this thing up and having a
Mhm.
conversation. But how do we do that? And then how do we program ourselves when we don't want to do something to just make sure it happens automatically? And doing those things, like I said, we've both seen people in this industry, Cheryl, that they're like, oh, that person guy's got to be successful, and you find out they're not quite as much. Or this person, like, how are they so successful? Because they may not have that super flashy, charismatic personality, but they're just consistently doing the things that need to be done to have a successful business. And if you can combine the two, look out. But we've both seen the extremes of that, and so creating the habits that help us have consistent success.
I love that. So let's talk about one or two habits that you personally have developed that have really paved the way for your success.
I think the biggest thing for me is like I have to start my day off with victories, right? So like my mornings are non-negotiable. Like I am going to do a couple of things every morning that are just going to automatically happen. And for me, that starts with I'm going to have a physical victory right off the bat every morning, and I'm going to exercise. And whether that is weight training, lately it's been a lot of pickleball too, right? So I kind of rotate days, pickleball,
You, but you're
and
going to kick my butt.
especially this time of the year, right?
It will be a
Pickleball.
victory for you for sure. We'll start the day off with a win.
Maybe one thing I might ever beat Cheryl Knowlton at pickleball, maybe. But
Oh,
pickleball's fun, right? That's one, and they've actually proven a lot of longevity associated with paddle and racket sports. But the other thing is also resistance training. I think resistance training and weight training are important. You're doing, and a lot of times, again, there's a lot of mornings I wake up, I don't feel like doing those things, but I know I'm going to feel better after. I'm going to release the endorphins. I'm going to feel a lot better after I do those things. And then, of course, the other part of that for me is reading, improving myself, studying and a little bit of time doing that, a little bit of time doing prayer or meditation, whatever it is that you like to do, and really kind of setting the tone emotionally and spiritually as well. And when I can start my day just checking those boxes, it's like, all right, I'm ready to tackle the day. And you've started right off the bat with a couple of victories. And those to me are non-negotiable. From a business perspective, the biggest thing that I've worked really, really hard to do is to make sure I'm consistent about certain days doing certain things at certain times.
mm.
And
Like what? I can hear our audience saying, okay, give us an example.
yeah, so like for example, one of the most important elements, you ask any realtor in this business, what's the most important thing you can get from your mortgage person? The number one answer that we hear back consistently is communication.
Mm.
And so it's going to be all right on every Tuesday and Friday we're going to give updates and we're going to let our people know what's happening in the industry. We're going to let them know what's happening with their loan status. We're going to let the real estate agents know how are things progressing, how are they moving, is there anything that we need from you? And so having specific days where you do certain activities because nobody wants to go through the weekend wondering what in the world's going on with their largest investment or sometimes their largest commission or payday.
Right?
Give that peace of mind every Friday. And so certain days where you do certain things and just making those non-negotiable makes it a lot easier if you just do those things consistently.
And I hear people saying, well, that's great for you, Clay. That's awesome. How do you, if you don't have a habit of starting your day with a victory, and let's start with the physicality or the spiritual side or
Mhm.
the emotional or mental side of things, how do you start a new habit? How do you create the carrot for yourself to create that new habit to get you up off the couch or out from under the covers when you'd rather be in bed?
Right. Well, I think so. You look at their strengths and weaknesses, right? And so it's okay. What is going to help me develop a strength? And a lot of times people think that to be really fit, you've got to be really extreme. And the reality is to be really successful in anything, you just have to be consistent. Consistent is the most important
Bam.
thing, right?
Mm,
So the biggest thing is just start with something. A lot of them, the biggest mistake people make is they say, "Man, I've got to start working out 60 minutes a day, 5 days a week." Well, that's just overwhelming if you're coming from a place of, "I'm not doing anything." So let's just start by saying, "Hey, each morning I'm going to do 20 push-ups and maybe do or 15 or 20 lunge squats, just something." And then just add a little bit to it every day until you feel like and just do something every day. I think the other part too is instead of scrolling or sitting on the couch, like say, hey, what can I do right now? Can I go for a walk? Just something simple to change that habit just a little bit. And don't start by making it too big. That's the biggest mistake people make with goals and trying to change habits is they try to make the change too significant. And so it's progress, not perfection. So start with something a little bit small in those areas, build upon that, do that consistently for a week, add a little bit the next week. And it's one of my favorite mentors used to say, hey, Clay, inch by inch, it's a cinch, yard by yard, it's hard. Just
Mm.
take a little bite of something and add to that each day or each week. And don't try to focus on too much at once or too big of a change at once, or it can be really challenging.
Absolutely. For me, I have to couple things that I want to do with things I don't want to do. If
Mm-hmm.
I want to scroll on Facebook or Instagram, I can only do that on my stationary bike.
Love that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because that way at least my feet are moving and I'm not breaking any land speed records, but at least
Right.
I'm getting some movement and I'm coupling something I want to do with something I don't want to do, and then it's distracting, and before I know it 19 minutes have gone by and I only have 11 more to go until I get my
Mm-hmm.
30. My Apple Watch helps me, it reminds me, it blows me up with my goals for movement and calorie burning and
It's
all the
awesome.
things. That's another external idea. On my
And
treadmill, I couple that with watching trash television that I otherwise don't allow myself to watch. I mean, and that's a discipline, right? Discipline and
right.
consistency are so important that they go together.
Yeah, I think it's good to have rewards for ourselves too. Like if I do this, I can do this. Or if I,
Yeah.
and the other thing too that I think is really helpful is having somebody that you're accountable to. And sometimes technology
Ooh.
can be that, but having somebody that you're accountable to in the beginning, especially until you develop the habit.
Mm-hmm.
Like with pickleball, there's a lot of mornings I was like, oh, do I really want to play pickleball day? Well, I know those three or six guys are going to be waiting for me. I better go show up, and it's what's interesting is just this morning we're playing pickleball, and I brought my future son-in-law with me, and we're playing with a guy. One of the guys we play with is actually in his mid 60s, and so when my son-in-law found that out, he was shocked, and he's like, really? And it was totally genuine, and he's like, you must do weight training. Nobody looks that good in their mid 60s unless they do weight training. He said, yeah, I have my whole life. I don't do anything crazy. I just do it consistently. And that was a
Mm-hmm.
perfect example that just happened today of, he's established a consistent habit and he looks great where he's at in his life.
I love that. And I apologize for my attire, friends. Adding the video component of this podcast is a new exciting thing for me. And I got dressed this morning for Pilates because I wanted to hit the ground running immediately after Christmas. And off we go with a new habit that I've cultivated of going to Pilates every day. So,
Love it.
all right, let's talk about the flip side, Clay. What if you have a bad habit that you're trying to break? How do we do that?
That is really, really tough, right? I mean, and I don't care what it is. We all have them. And the thing we have to realize about a habit is it's never dropped, it's replaced.
Mm,
And so when we can't just say, I'm going to stop doing that because that doesn't work.
mm.
You have to say, instead of this, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to replace it with this. And what's a bad habit that we're going to, and what's a good habit we've been wanting to pick up and a bad habit we've been wanting to drop. And again, making sure the effort's not going to be monumental to replace it in the beginning, because that can make, but just how do I replace a habit? Because you're not just going to drop it. And that's the biggest mistake people make when they try to stop doing something that's destructive or harmful or not effective is replacing it with a better one. You have to have very strategic about what am I going to replace it with.
I love that. And I think for me, having made the decision of what that thing is going to be beforehand, rather than being in the weak moment and like, forget it, and then going back to doing the thing, for me, very hard habit to break. When my dad married my stepmom, that was such a stressful time for me because she hated me. Some of our listeners have heard that story. I know you have. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the bad habits that I then cultivated that I'd never ever had before was I started biting my nails.
Mm-hmm.
And I became an Olympian at biting my nails. I anything that's worth doing is worth doing all the way, worth doing
Right.
right. And so I was spectacularly good at biting my nails. And I tried all the things. I tried painting them pretty, and that didn't help. I tried painting disgusting tasting stuff that my grandparents gave me to try and help me. I mean, everybody was like trying to help me. And I just got over the fact that it tasted disgusting because I wanted so very desperately to bite them.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I started getting acrylic nails, like having this literal barrier that I can no longer nibble anymore,
Right.
got me to stop. And so as a result, I mean, I've got my first set of acrylic nails probably I was 21 years old.
Hmm.
And, I'm not 21 anymore. It's been a couple of decades since then, but it took that to get me to stop because I tried and I wanted to stop and it was just so hard and I didn't have anything to do with my hands consistently. My grandmother handed me knitting needles and crochet needles. They're not with me at school when I'm like stressed about a math test or something.
Yes. Yeah, having it right there. Yeah, it's so true. And the other thing too, and the reason we sometimes default to those things, we're dealing with stress, we're dealing with anxiety, we're doing negative self-talk. And then, but that's a whole other topic. But like
Mm,
if we can turn that off and create interrupters when we have negative thoughts about ourselves or we say negative things to ourselves, and it can be surprising. I think some people are very surprised when they start listening to their inner dialogue, how negative or down-putting, and I'm not very good at this, or I'm horrible at that, or I'm not, I think just creating a buzzer in our mind, like, like that, no, that's shutting off, and then saying something. And I think that's where it's really good to have like, positive self messages, affirmation statements, things of that nature that we can read and say to ourselves that go, okay, now I feel better. And that helps with some of those habits that become stress relievers, like the nails and just, I had a good friend that would, you know, pull out their eyebrows and eyelashes and different things and when they got really stressed. And so, yeah,
ow. Yeah, and that's as
yeah,
visible to others as my horrible nail biting thing was. You're so right. Going back to your brilliant ability to memorize things, and self-talk, I don't necessarily consider myself to be great at memorization. And maybe that's a limiting belief, possibly. I'm willing to entertain that. But years ago, when I worked for a different real estate company, and I was on the leadership team. Every morning at 7 a.m., we had what they called morning ascent. And we would read through the exact same list of affirmations out loud, very energetically, and with music and high fives and the whole
mhm,
shebang. And it's so funny, Clay, because last week I had to go to the dentist for the first time in a very long time and have some work done. And I was so freaked out. And I'm sitting there repeating those affirmations from more than a decade ago, you know, of all of those positive things. And when I'm super scared, that's what comes into my head. And
that's awesome.
that's a good habit. That's
That's a
something to
great
celebrate.
habit. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I control
And
my thinking. I believe in me. I feel outstanding.
and it's interesting because we've talked about that too, but you're a great and I mean obviously everybody knows you're an amazing public speaker. So and one of the things, and I'm not nearly as accomplished as you, but one of the things that I learned early on, and whether it's no matter what we're doing, we can't sound different than we look, than what our posture is saying, what our facial expressions are saying, what we're yes. So it's like if we start to feel insecure, yeah, changing our physiology, what we're doing physically can really change our energy flow and our output. And yeah,
Absolutely. I
yep.
love that. So, speaking of, you are also an outstanding public speaker, by the way. And you're a tremendous leader. You're someone who leads with courage and with integrity. What is one habit of leadership that you think people could incorporate that would really help them in their real estate journey?
I think one of the key things for me that I've realized through the years is don't be willing to ask someone to do something you wouldn't be willing to do yourself if it made sense, right? Like, um, so sometimes you just know we've all had those leaders that they delegate because they think they're above something or they,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I think one of the key things is showing people you're willing to do the hard things but you're also strategic about utilizing your time effectively. So there's different roles that two different people play, but also just letting people know that you're not above things, you're not above them, and be willing to do the hard things and lead by example. One of my favorite quotes is, preach, preach. Well, it's a religious one, but it's preach my gospel and when necessary, use words, right? So it's like do rather than talk about something, show them how to do something and use words when needed. But I think that leading by example is such an important aspect.
I love that. And I think anybody who knows me knows what a avid Disney fan I am. And now you can see some of the a fraction
Oh,
of
yes.
that in my office. But that is such an important principle that Disney leadership has instilled in their cast members. And that is the picking up of trash. First of all, they make it very easy for people to throw away their own trash, which is
Mhm.
ideal and no more than 6 feet apart. But then no matter how high you are in management, no matter what role you fill, what title you have, every cast member who sees trash on the ground is supposed to pick it up and throw it away. And it's not like, oh, that's beneath me and, the little people are going to do that. We all do that. And that is part of the
Mhm.
culture that none of us are above cleaning up trash. And then we have a
Yes.
beautiful, clean space.
Yep.
So, yeah, love that. All right. Last question before the lightning round. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You are an avid mountain biker. Yes.
Yes. Yep.
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 Another thing I will never compete with you.
Anything on two wheels, really. I love, road biking,
Anything
mountain
on
biking.
two
Yeah.
wheels.
Yes. Yep. Motorbiking. Yeah. Any of it. Yeah.
Any of it. How does your time on the trails influence your mindset and your approach to business or life?
I think the big thing is it's good to have that outlet. It's like we need things to quiet the noise in life. And for me, mountain biking, road cycling, being out doing those sort of things is a way that I can quiet the noise because we constantly have distractions and the phone's going off nonstop. There's texts, there's phone calls, there's emails, and being able to get away from that. And I think the same thing is true when and that's a great way just in general to release those endorphins and to quiet the noise of life. And sometimes the same thing is true when we're working and we're super stressed and we're trying to reach a deadline and we're really anxious about it and our mind is frazzled. Sometimes we just have to step away and take a walk, change the environment, change the scenery for a minute, and then come quiet that noise and then come back in. And it seems almost counterintuitive. You're like, I don't have the time to do that. I'm too stressed. I got to get this done. I don't have time to step away from my computer. But sometimes it's the very thing that we need is what can we do to quiet the noise and the crazy activity that's happening sometimes. And
Mhm.
so I think, for me, that has been the big thing is just being able to do that reset, refocus.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. Lightning round. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's
All
do
right.
it.
What is the one habit that all top performers in real estate have?
Communication, consistent communication, thorough, active, solid communication. Take them behind the scenes, let them know what's going on, show your value, but communication over and over again is, I think, absolute.
Agreed, especially when it's hard,
Yes,
especially when you're
especially when it's
delivering
hard.
bad news. Mm-hmm.
Yep, that goes back to successful people have the habit of doing things failures don't like to do. You're right. It's doing the hard things when they need to be done.
Do the
Yep.
hard things when they need to be done. Love it. One book you recommend starting the year with?
Oh, good to great. I love it. Good to great. Yes, get the right people on the bus, have the right people around you, focus in, hedgehog theory, make things happen. Yeah, good to great because a lot of us are really good in our business, but to be great, there's some simple consistencies that need to happen and make your business great.
Love that. Awesome. One habit you're personally working on right now.
Ooh, that's a good thing. Honestly, for me, it's a breaking of habit, right? Because I sometimes if I get into a really good Netflix thing, it's like, oh, we've all done this, right? Like one more episode, one more. So it's literally, I think for me, it's one thing I'm trying to change is limit it to what I say I'm going to start with. So if I say I'm just going to do one episode, stay with one episode. If I say it's 2 episodes, stay with 2 episodes. So for me, it's like sometimes I feel like that's a little bit of a time burn. And honestly, that's something I need to tighten up is set the boundary before I start it and then stick with that boundary.
Okay, maybe that would be a good one for me as well. Not saying it is, but yeah, guilty as charged right there. I love it. Anything else that you've talked beyond what you've talked about, a non-negotiable that you will not go a single day without, no matter what?
I think connection with my family. I think we've got to stay connected with our family and the people that matter most. And so sometimes it's busy, we're distracted, we're stressed, we're worried, we're a deadline oriented business. And so again, it's that reset, right? Connect with our family in a meaningful way. So for me, whether it's my wife, one of my children's, even my sons-in-law, daughter, it's just who can I connect with and make sure those connections stay tight. Those are non-negotiables because they make me a better person. They keep those relationships strong, and they remind us of our why we're doing things every day.
Mm, beautiful. Love that. Last question, drum roll.
All right.
What's one thing you hope every realtor listening remembers as they start 2026?
I think just remembering that we can improve a little bit at a time and to choose one or two things and never more than three things at a time that we're going to work on. People, it's just kind of like say, hey, month one, I'm going to focus in on this. These are the habits that I'm going to establish in month one. And don't let too much noise come in because you won't do good at any of them. I think really we work good in threes or less. And depending on the complexity of what we're going to be working on, focus on one, two, or if they're not too complex, three things, but never more than three at a time and master those before we move on to the next.
I love that. I absolutely love that. When I was new in this industry in 1999, I had the incredible blessing, privilege, opportunity to meet someone who changed my life. He has ghost written all of my books, co-authoring my next one. He was a regional vice president of a title company at that time. And the first piece of advice I was given when I was new in this industry was from him, Chuck Miller. And he said, surround yourself with people who are going to make you look great.
Mhm.
We've he's still my best friend to this day. We've modified that because it sounds like surround yourself with attractive people, which Clay fits that bill. So that's a check
No,
box.
you've already failed out. No.
But yeah, Chuck changed it when I was speaking not long ago to surround yourself with people who make you better. And I love that. And you are so very much that for me and for everyone that has the privilege of working with you, Clay. Where I'm so excited that we get to do these bonus episodes together every single month. Yay!
Yes, love it.
Awesome sauce. All right. So in the meantime, how can people find you, connect with you? We'll have our team put it in the show notes so that people can find you and connect with you.
Yeah. So email is clayj@grarate.com. And then, of course, phone number is 801-592-5448. And then you can also do guaranteedrateaffinity.com/Clay Johnson. And yes.
It's a brave leader who puts his cell phone number out into the World Wide Web.
It's like, hey, you've got to be reachable, right? And so, yeah, I think that's what it is.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
text is my thing. Like if because we've been doing things like this or meetings, but even still, I'm really, really fast on text and getting back with people, and then always make sure we get back with everybody the same day. So,
And you're great at that. You're absolutely great at
and
that.
John's really good at that, as you know. So, yes, yep.
John will answer the phone on the beach in Hawaii.
He'd
So
answer the call while he's doing this podcast.
he totally would. Like, hang on just a second. Can you press pause?
Exactly. Yes.
I know you have an amazing production team. They'll pick up where we left off. Oh gosh. All right,
Yes.
Clay. Any final words of advice for all of our listeners, no matter where they're coming to us from?
No matter where you're at, focus on imagine who you can be. Picture that person in your mind, and we all have that. And if we've lost that, I think just imagine what we look like when we feel like we're at our best. Start working towards that, but keep that positive mental image in our mind to develop those great habits that are going to help us be successful. You're a phenomenal example of this, Cheryl. I've always admired you for that, and I've watched you grow tremendously since that very first presentation I saw you do at the Women's Council of Real Estate Agents, and then how you've developed and really kind of became a master speaker. And I think it's, you didn't get there overnight. I look at how you've developed over the last 12 years to 10, 12 years we've known each other and how it's been incremental but consistently moving forward. And I'm sure in your mind there's some times where you've dropped a little, but it's always keeping that trajectory upward. And we will have those dips, but just don't give up when we hit the dips. Just keep focusing on that ultimate person you're working towards. And I love that Matthew McConaughey thing is, you know who my hero is? It's me in 10 years. It's always me in 10 years. It's like, hey, I'm going to be that person and just keep focusing on our best selves and what we're going to look like in 10 years down the road. So, yeah.
Wow. I love that. And I've read Matthew McConaughey's book and I don't remember that he said that. Thank you for that incredible reminder. My hero is the person I will be in 10 years.
Yeah.
That's a great reminder for all of us. Holy cow. Clay, thank you so much for sharing your wit, your wisdom, and your leadership. on habits with us today. Can't wait to talk to you again next month. Friends, thank you so much for being here. You know someone who needs to hear this episode. Please freely share and subscribe so that you can hear every single episode as they drop every single Friday, and bonus episodes showing up, surprise, whenever they do, once a month with my amazing guest, Clay Johnson, from area regional manager with Guaranteed Rate Affinity here in Utah. Friends, remember that Real Estate Elevated starts with you, and that rising tides really do lift all boats. It starts with each and every one of us. And until we get to be together again, remember to continue being the magic you wish to see in the world.